my girls. I'm so happy that you guys have joined me today on Mother's Day. Mother's Day is an important day because we came from mothers, right?
Yes.
Deborah, Nero, I can hear you there. Anyway, ladies, thank you so much. You're my friends. You're my go-to people. You're the people that when I was a magazine editor, I always came to. Davina I always call her the wrong name. But she always, she was the one who asked me to write. Marilyn was on my shows forever and ever. Danny is a brilliant person who I've adopted and my go-to book author. And Keysha, Keysha Davis is somebody I worked with at Pride. She was the entertainment's editor and other things, right? And then she went on to do good things by herself. But you'll learn a little bit more about them in a moment. I wanted to start this first webinar as part of my Give Back series. I believe that every single woman here has something to offer. They're able to tell us how they did it. What do they think? They're in the media, they're out there. So basically they're the ones who can really give us hints and tips. And of course you, my beautiful audience, if you have questions, just write them, send them in, and I will try and get the girls to answer it. So I'm going to start off first with Marilyn. I've chosen her because, as I say, she can chat for days. And she likes that. But Marilyn, I'd like to introduce you, and I'd like you to tell the audience about yourself. A minute.
Right, there we go. So, hey, Sherry, first of all, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on your inaugural show. Really exciting. And depending on who I'm talking to and the angle that we're coming from, that will determine what I actually say. Because as you know, my bio is long and extensive.
Yes.
And goes on for days. So, you know, in the context of this conversation, one of the things I've been doing since 2003 is I work as a flexible working implementation consultant. So that means going into organizations to write and deliver and implement flexible and remote working policy. So that has been doing for 17 years now. I'm also a coach and a therapist. I've been doing that for 20 years and have also been working online since 2005. So a lot of what is the new normal for the world at large is kind of my, you know, day-to-day sense of being in existence. And from my perspective, one of the reasons why I've always been passionate about emotional health and well-being and coaching and support is that when I was 32, I contemplated committing suicide. And it just happened to coincide with me going on a personal development training. So I went from suicidal to becoming a Samaritan's volunteer, where I'm on the phone supporting other people. And that for me was my big wake-up call about the power of speaking, connecting, sharing, and that it actually is possible to change and transform your life, even when you have not had a great start and a great beginning. So that's a little bit about me in a nutshell.
Good. I'm going to come back to you, obviously, with a question. The next person I'd like to ask that question to is Daniella, but I call her Danny. Danny, tell people a little bit about you. Turn your mic on.
I said, thank you, Auntie Sherry. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on. It's amazing to connect. And I'm having a glass of wine in celebration of Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day, Sherry. Okay. So a little bit about myself and what I do. Yep. Yeah. So my name is Daniella Blechner. I'm an author, book journey mentor, founder of a company called Conscious Dreams Publishing. We work with authors from all over the world to help them to get their powerful messages and stories out there in the form of books. Behind me on my shelf are just some of the 70 plus books that we've published over the last 4 years. And in fact, I don't remember how long ago I met you, Sherry. but I love your energy, and we've spoken about, you know, the importance of sharing stories and books and using stories to, my passion is providing a platform for people to really share their stories, and people whose stories are often unheard, unseen, giving us a platform to share our stories authentically and to reclaim our power through it. So writing from an empowered place that we can educate, inspire and empower the generations to come. That's really my passion, and that's what I do and why I do it. I think it's really important.
I love it. The next person I'm coming to is the lady. I always get her. Well, I get her because she worked with me under some serious stress when we were both working in magazine editing. Keysha, turn on your mic. Basically, Keysha is my go-to person when I have any questions about hair, because she's now joined that fraternity. So Keysha, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, good afternoon or good day, wherever you may be in the world. Again, I'm going to echo what everyone else said. Thank you so much, Sherry, for inviting me on this amazing platform, which I know will just grow from strength to strength. So a little bit about me. I guess the easiest answer is I'm a writer. Because funny, Sherry, when you asked me what I would like to be referred as a couple of days ago, I'm in such a space of transition at the moment that I just didn't really know how to answer that clearly. So in a nutshell, I'm a writer. As Sherry mentioned, I started off many, many years ago at Pride magazine, and I have to attribute, and I always do, attribute Sherry for giving me my first start. And not even first, I think first, second, third shot at this thing. Sherry was always there to kind of open the doors and let me in when I wanted to become a writer. So I started off at Pride many moons ago under Sherry's tutelage as an editorial assistant. I was there for about a year, then I left to go freelance, and then I dipped my toes into other areas such as marketing and PR. And then after I had my first son in 2005, I got the writing bug again, and I was emailing Sherry suggesting ideas for the magazine. And she was like, yep, that's great, that's great. And then lo and behold, I said, Sherry, is there another position going at Pride? She said, yes, someone had just left. And I went back a second time as an entertainment editor, amongst other things, because by then Sherry was the editor and the team had shrunk down to maybe 3 or 4 people. And it was real, well, we could write a book about this, the magazine. As brilliant as it was so much hard work because the magazine industry was kind of in decline at that time. So we were really stretched, but it taught me some really valuable lessons, and it was amazing building such strong friendships with the likes of Sherry and Mina Taylor and Cynthia Lawrence, people that I'm still friends with to this day. So after staying at Pride for 4 years, I then went on to become the editor of Black Hair magazine, hence the kind of segue into hair and beauty. And I was there for 7 or 8 years. And I now work as a copywriter, as a content marketer, as a freelance journalist within the spectrum of hair and beauty, but amongst other things. So,
and Cocoa Diaries, of course.
Yeah, and a blogger as well. I do an entertainment blog called cocodiaries.com, which is now on a bit of a hiatus because we're not able to go out to concerts and theatres, performances and the likes of. So yeah, that's me, but I still feel my journey is, sorry? What'd you say, Sherry?
Things you do. I wanted people to know about these things. So, because I think we as people, and I'm still coming to you, Davina. I'm still coming to you, but I wanted people, by listening to you guys and seeing your journey, to realize that it's not just a one-stop shop. You know, basically you got to be multitasked, and that's important. Okay, so thank you for that, Keysha.
You're welcome.
And then lastly, but not the last one, totally, Davina. I call her the wrong name. I've been calling her Davina from the time I've known her, and it's only today she said, "Sherry, you called me the wrong name." Well, now my brain can't process it. I can't say the right name, so forgive me.
I'm so used to it now. It's like I find it like it's endearing, so I like it now. But
okay, it's my name. All right. Okay, darling, tell us a little bit about you and your journey.
I think I'm pretty much piggybacking Keysha's story, aren't I? I mean, we're all from the print media industry. I began professionally at The Voice back in 2002. So, and I spent a good old 14 years at The Voice newspaper. I went, like Keysha, from editorial assistant, and then eventually made my way to arts and entertainment editor. So, you know, it was great. It was a lot of fun, met a lot of people, interviewed lots of people, went to lots of concerts. You know, it was good. It was, you know, it was really good. And being in the thick of Black media, obviously you were exposed to so many stories. Even though I was in arts, you know, there were so many stories covered along the way in terms of very important news stories, that were, you know, groundbreaking and of course important for our community. So it was, you know, that was where I essentially built my journalism career, and it was just a fantastic start. It was a wonderful platform. I met so many people, friends who I still have today, and including yourself, Sherry, and Keysha as well. I mean, obviously being in the same industry, our paths crossed so many times. And you know, it's been such a long journey, but yeah, eventually I decided that it was time to move on. So in 2016, I handed in my notice. I decided that it was time to try new things. It also coincided with us trying out Canada, which is where I actually am now. We kind of started on a journey to kind of test the waters. We went back and forth on holidays and spent some time there, and eventually decided to make the move. So that is where we are now. We've moved permanently last year after a lengthy, to be fair, not that lengthy journey to get permanent residency. And yeah, in that time as well, after leaving The Voice, every journalist, I think, has a book in them, don't they? They always say that, don't they? So I decided to try my hand at writing books. I decided I'd start with children's books, and that's now become my thing. It sounds so cliche when you say, oh, I had some kids, so I thought, but, you know, I thought, why not? So that's what I did. So yeah, so journalist turned author, now having ditched the UK, based in Canada. That's my story in a nutshell.
Love it.
And ladies and gentlemen, aren't they all lovely stories? They're lovely stories, because I'm older than most of them. I see them all as my mentees. Hey, hello mentees. Thank you for joining me. It's the first one and I love it. But the question today for the people listening in, and I know they want to hear your answers on this, what's going to become the new norm? Because we're used to, most of us, going to work 9 to 5, or 8 to 4, whatever it is, and you get up, you get dressed, most of us, and you go to work. And now I don't think that will ever be the new norm after this pandemic. Some of us have started, you guys have started, and you're working from home already. I really just want to know how can you help people to understand what is the new norm? What you think will be the new norm? Let's go to Marilyn first.
All righty, I'm muted. I believe the new norm, seriously. I mean, I said this a couple of weeks ago. I did an interview with BBC Radio 5 Live, and I said back then, probably 6, 7 weeks ago, maybe 8 weeks ago, I said there's going to be a seismic shift in the way that people work. In the way that they communicate. Because I think what happens when people work from home, the first couple of days, it's a bit like, woohoo, I don't have to commute, I don't have to get up, I don't have to do this, fine. Probably when you hit the week 2 to 3 mark, you actually start to realize there's more to it than just being at home and working. And that's where people kind of start climbing the walls a little bit, and the days start blurring into one where you don't even know what day it is, and you've got your house pajamas and your night pajamas and your lunch pajamas. So there's all of that going on. But what I think is going to start happening, it's probably already happening, is people will then suddenly go, actually, I quite like this. And they're going to not want to be going into the office every single day. They're not going to be wanting to do the big 3-4 hour commute. I think they're going to start to realize the pointlessness of some meetings. You could do it in 45 minutes on Zoom as opposed to 3 hours in the office. And actually there'll be things that you didn't even contemplate you could do from home, which you've actually been able to do quite easily. Because when I started going into organizations back in 2003, the biggest job, number one, was to convince them it was possible to work from home. And number two, it was creating what we call work packages to actually show that things you think are completely desk bound can actually be done remotely. And so the world has been forced into that. But I actually think people, and also that sense, I'm sure many have been with themselves for the longest time ever. So you might even start to question who you are, what you do, what is this all about? And if your life's work, let's say, has been taken away from you in terms of everything just shut down in a heartbeat, you might even start to question, when it starts to reopen, who am I? And what do I actually want to be doing? So I think we're going to see a lot of things changing as the kind of the lockdown eases and we start to roll.
Thank you, Marilyn. Davina?
I would, I'd be inclined to agree. I mean, I think because we're on this this strange period of time that we've never been in before, it's kind of hard to predict how things are going to be. I think that, I don't know, I think as humans, we we liked the familiarity of what we know. So I think for many there will be a temptation to just return to normal. I think there will be, a kind of return to normal for a lot of people. They'll want to return back to that sense of familiarity. But I do agree. I think that this is going to be, there's, a period of creativity for a lot of people. They're going to discover new passions. There's going to be new opportunities that open up for people, because even though we can't, physically meet with people, it's this has been an opportunity to connect with so many different new people. So I think that there'll be new opportunities on the horizon for so many people, and I think that this will be a great time to make the most of those connections and go forth and do different things. I think this period of time has really probably made a lot of people think about, well, do I want to go back to doing that? I think a lot of people will actually struggle perhaps to return to normal, because this has become the new normal, hasn't it? So even in terms of parenting, I know a lot of parents are going to struggle to probably send their kids back to school. I mean, when you first get them home, it's like, oh, I just want them to go back. It's just so stressful. But then, when you get into the rhythm of homeschooling, which I haven't, truth be told, but, you do kind of start to pick things up and you think, wow, but, how will you go back to normal? And will we adapt in terms of how we teach our children and how hands-on we are with their education? And so, I think that, I think it will be a split. I think some people will return to normal, probably forget that this ever happened. They'll be so keen to just get back to being able to socialize and mix with people, maybe get back to work. But I do agree, I think, and I hope actually a lot of workforces do realize now that things can be done remotely. I remember in my previous job, that was something that was it wasn't embraced very well. The home work from home mentality, it wasn't embraced. But I think that hopefully this period of time will let people realize that there is such a thing as flexible working. We can still be productive from home. So many people work from home anyway. So I do hope for the best. I hope we can adapt to a new normal that's better for all of us.
Okay, thank you. Keysha, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'm echoing what both Marilyn and Davina said. I've spoken to so many people, because like you said, Sherry, I've been working from home now on and off for about 7 years, but full-time for 3 years. And during this time, I've been thinking about, oh gosh, if I was at work now and faced with going back to my 3-hour commutes and, like Marilyn said, long meetings and, having to beg for time off for a doctor's appointment, when I think about going back to that, I'm like, there's no way on earth I can do that. And I can imagine people that have been at home for like 7 or 8 weeks are probably feeling the same thing. Davina's right. In one sense, they maybe wanted to go back to work just to get that sense of normality, of returning to normal. But I feel that we've all been faced with, to some degree, facing our own mortality. And when you are faced with that, with the threat of this illness, you're forced to really think about what matters to you. And I feel a lot of people are going to feel conflicted about going back to an environment where it's so stifling. And I feel employers will have to, learn to be more flexible. In industries such as ours, in publishing, there's really no reason why we can't work at home at least 70% of the time, maybe go back in for deadline weeks or so on and so forth. But many of my previous employers were really dead against it, and that's part of the reason why I decided to leave the rat race and work from home. So yeah, in a nutshell, I feel people will be questioning things and question whether they want to go back to the old normal or create a new one.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm going to butt in before I go to Daniella. I'm going to butt in there because I actually feel that I don't know if I could go back to the new norm, go back to the old norm, because right now, I think of the most weird things, and you lot forgive me and you may laugh. I don't want to be in a cab with other people, because I don't actually think this thing is going to go away. This is me. It's not going away just now. And people sneezing around me, people coughing around me. I've now been enlightened as to how much a virus or other sort of germy things work. And I think that actually we take it for granted how much we need to keep ourselves incubated or cleansed. I think all the things that I've relearned, because I think growing up as a Caribbean person in our homes, we were taught you had to clean. Clean is normal. It wasn't a big deal. We just had to up the ante. But I don't actually think that that I can go back to normal. I don't even think I want to go out to some meetings. I might go out and meet a friend for lunch, but it's going to be
outdoors.
Yeah, like, across the table. Yeah, I don't know if I would shake hands easily. I don't know if I'll hug naturally. So that's changed me, and I'm quite comfortable to sit here and write my bits and have a conversation. I think family meetings, I debate with my sisters whether or not they should be having Mother's Day and everybody going over. In England, that doesn't happen. You know, a little bit more incubated. But in America, they don't seem to be as incubated as we are. And I don't understand why there's not a one-stop for everybody. You know, why isn't the same mindset? Because a family member could go out and hug somebody, and they're a carrier of the virus, and yet you're allowing them to come in your square until they say go out. And even when they say go out, I'm not going out for another month.
Exactly.
At least. Daniella, what do you think?
Okay, so deep in my heart, I don't think it will ever be back to normal, and I'm quite happy. Something wasn't working. The old way wasn't working. It's not working. And I think the key to this, everyone's situation is different. So I live at home by myself. I've got my own business, and my life hasn't changed dramatically in the sense that I'm used to working from home. But I also am a teacher, so I'm used to being in a big community. I'm used to being around young people. I'm used to going into schools and also doing workshops. So it's the community that I miss, that I'm used to. So I think everyone's situation is different. You know, my experience as somebody who's used to working at home is going to be completely different to somebody who enjoys going to the work for the fact that, number one, they might love their job. Number two, it also gives them that mental health break away from maybe a crowded space. You know, and then you have parents who are homeschooling and trying to do their work as well. So I think it very much depends on the situation. And I see myself as privileged to be able to I'm actually quite happy. I'm actually quite happy. You know what I mean? But I think that there's got to be beauty. There is beauty in every struggle. And I think, as Marilyn said, that there's going to be people at home, and we've had a lot of time to reflect, no matter what's going on in the outside or how crowded our house may or may not be. There has to be a point of introspection where we do start to think, am I happy in my job? Is this really what I want to do? Because I'm sure all of us who are watching now know somebody who you speak to them, how's your day? Oh, it's just so bad. I just think, I know we need money, but there's more to life than this. There's no more to life than getting up, going to work at a certain time, finishing at a certain time, going home, making your food, going to bed, being miserable, waking up to the same thing. I just cannot, to me, that's just my absolute worst nightmare. So I think I know this sounds funny, but I genuinely think that there's people in corporate jobs right now who are working from home, who may have discovered, maybe had some kind of spiritual awakening or discovered new gifts that they never knew that they had. And they're going to be taking life's going to be taking a completely new trajectory because they realize there's more to life than this, you know? And
Yes.
if anything, what this has also taught us, I think, sharing what Davina said as well. I'm sorry, Sherry, blame you, Sherry. Davina said as well was that what it's proved to many employers and to employees, actually, do our employees need to be coming into work every single day, 8 o'clock till whatever time they work? I don't know, but is that necessary? How much can we have at home? How much can we trust employees to be at home and be able to work themselves? And also, being at home, it does stop the commute. Some people are, you know, getting on the train is stressful. I don't like packed places myself, personally. You know, being on a packed train is stressful, going every morning and coming home, you know, with everyone else at the same time. It's stressful. So now we've got time to work from home. Take your laptop out to a park if it's if it's charged, you know, have a break. I've never done it myself, so I'm just trying to imagine how you'd work, you know, in a green space. But, you know, go and take some time away, go and walk in a green space. You know, when we give ourselves, I must work between this time and that time, we're not always productive in that time, you know. Well, that's what I love about working from home.
I think, yeah, you're right, Daniella, because I think I might start doing things. Maybe because I'm now semi-retired, I can do what I want, but I'm just thinking of the younger generation. Yeah. Would they be there? Would they be out in shopping? Would they be clothes shopping? But they're not online, you know. Can they be trusted is the word. And that's the question that most job people will be, or employers, not job people, but employers will actually be thinking about. But isn't that called, it's not micromanagement? And are we not supposed to be moving away from micromanagement?
Yeah,
I mean, exactly. I know people in the Caribbean might have a problem with that. I know they do. If you've got a question at this point and you would like to, or a comment to make, you know, put the hand up. Come on, we've got people in here that really we can liaise with. We're chatterboxes, and the reason I invite them in here is because I know that they can deliver. So if you've got a question at this point, why not answer? I can see, okay, there's a question from Gloria. God, how do I see this question? Somebody help me here. How do I see the question?
I think it's a comment from Gloria.
Go to the bottom and see the chat, Sherry.
Yeah, go to the chat and click the envelope.
See, that's why you shouldn't do these things. That's why you shouldn't do these things if you don't have training. But then again, I have to compliment myself because
you're doing a good job.
In this drama, this pandemic, I have learned so many new things because I was getting to the stage, which a lot of people get to, where you go, oh, not another new thing. What the hell? And I'm now doing this, and I'm doing in Google, and I've embraced training courses. I'm on so many courses. I'm learning. It's all quite exciting. So, somebody says, Happy Mother's Day. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Yes. Gloria to everyone. By living simply and only using what I really need, all my needs will eventually be fulfilled. That's the quote from her calendar today. That's a good quote. One thing, have you discovered, what's one thing that you've discovered about yourself that you didn't know before this pandemic? Take it up, please.
For myself, how adaptable I am. And not just me, I think humanity on the whole. When this thing first started, I was really, it's a whole array of emotions. I was panicked, I was stressed. As Davina mentioned earlier, the thought of having to homeschool and work at the same time, with all of us together in the same house for like 6 weeks. If you told me that at the start, I would have been like, no way, I'm going to have a mental breakdown. I'm going to strangle one of my children. But within the first 2 or 3 weeks, I think, I settled into a routine. We had our Friday night routine after we worked, you know, and homeschooled during the week. We had a drink, we put on some music, all these online DJs that were playing music. We just, as Davina saw, I got dressed up on Saturday night, me and Richard in the house, had a drink and just chilled. And now I prefer things now than what they were prior to lockdown. So I just feel it shows how we can all adapt to any situations. And as you said, Sherry, I've learned new skills, technical skills, especially with things like Zoom and Instagram Live and the likes of. And yeah, it almost feels in some ways like becoming a child again. You know, when you have that 6 weeks holiday period where you're just trying different things. And I feel for many people, especially those that don't have to work or that have, you know, had time off work and are discovering new things about themselves, it's almost like that kind of playful period of when you were a child. So, yeah, that's my long-winded answer. I've become more adaptable, or I've learned that I'm more adaptable than I probably give myself credit for.
That's good. We have somebody, he's a young man, and he's always joined my program. His mum has brought him up that way, where he will ask questions, and I like the fact that he does. He's a old head, we would call it. And he says, I've learned that my mum can make a wonderful pizza. Have we not all learned to cook better? Have we?
Yeah.
I think so.
That's true.
I think so. And then Marcia M. Spence, the wonderful Marcia M. Spence. Everybody knows her. Hi, Marcia.
Hey, Marcia.
Hey. Hi. Hi. I'm not on camera.
Marcia, what's your question? I heard.
I was just saying that I've got mobility issues now, and I've been in my house for about 10 months with fibromyalgia. And so I've been very, very isolated. But since the lockdown, my social life and my contact with people has increased so much. So I've benefited from the lockdown that I'm not as isolated. So I'm meeting lots of new people, and actually it's so busy. Davina somebody was saying that there's parties, there's courses, there's webinars, there's just so much happening on Zoom that and online that I'm meeting lots of people, so I don't feel as isolated now.
That's good. Yeah, actually she's right. Marcia's right, because I don't think my phone has rang so much as before. People are communicating, they're contacting, people are cooking for me. People cooked. My friend Jeanette cooked and brought me food. Yes, we're still self-isolating, but you know, you can pass the food over the gate, right? Yeah. And I also have, you know, another friend that I call Dancy, who calls every day. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? It's like, leave me alone, I'm all right. But the point is that I think never than before people really embraced each other as they are now. I think so. I really do. Galaxy S6, whoever you are, says, it's Karen. Do you believe this pandemic has affected your mental health dramatically? Good question. How do you think the impact on people's mental health can be self-managed? Somebody take that up. Marilyn?
I think, I'll go for it. Sorry, Marcia, what were you saying?
No, I was just going to say that I've just been on a call with my mum and my sisters. My mum lives in Portugal and my sisters live around Birmingham, but we were just speaking about my sisters are feeling really, really down today, and they were sharing. And then I started sharing because I think that we have a lot more time to reflect on our lives. And I think today's a significant day because it would have been my grandmother's birthday. But she died about 9 years ago. And so we had this get together, but that's why I'm not on camera, my eyes are red. but we all ended up crying and sharing about, I suppose, about losses, but also about some regrets. And just, I think that it's a time where everything can be every emotion can be quite intensified. So that's my comment in terms of mental health.
And I was going to ask you, Madam Talker over there, what do you think? What do you think, you know, Marilyn, that, you know, seeing that is something that you suffered from before. Mental health is a thing that people just don't realize how many people live at home by themselves, and therefore this is extra. It keeps them more enclosed, and it will affect their mental health. What do you think? What's your comment on that?
One of the things I would definitely say, now back in the day, for those of you who lived in the United Kingdom, British Telecom, BT, had an advert, the straplines, a woman called BT, and the strapline was, "It's good to talk." I've been saying that for the last 20 years, because I think one of the reasons I got into the state that I got into is I thought I was the only one. And what I'm noticing now is people are talking and sharing, because there are so many groups, so many online forums that have been popping up, like you guys have said, so many webinars and all the rest of it. Suddenly people realize they are actually not alone. There are other people feeling the same way. So that's a really good starting point. I always say, you don't need to put all your business out in public. Find a trusted source, someone that, you know, because I think that's the thing about talking about mental health. Many people don't want to talk about it because you don't want that coming back on you. You know, you might tell someone and they tell someone, and then all of your business is out in public. So I think that's the reason why, that's why I was a massive fan of something like the Samaritans. And I would also say, if things are coming up and you know it's a pattern, it's not the first time this has happened, and it's not the first time you've had those thoughts and feelings, but previously you've been able to mask them, going out partying, clubbing, after work friends, cinema, or concert, you name it. That's a good way to mask all these things. So if you're now sitting with yourself and thinking, whoa, I recognize this, my suggestion is to do something about it. There are, I mean, I'm trained in about 20 different modalities, NLP, hypnosis, timeline therapy, you name it, it's all in there. One size does not fit all, but I say find the thing that resonates with you and the people or the person that resonates, and embrace the opportunity to do something about it. Because like all of the speakers have said in some way, shape or form, I actually think there's a flip side to this, and it is a bit of a gift to have been given the time and the space where you don't have to, I mean, I know some people are still working, but a lot of people, they don't have to be anywhere, they don't have to go anywhere, they don't have to do anything particularly. I know there are big worries about, you know, finances, your business, particularly if you're self-employed, but I say take the opportunity to maybe really sit with what's going on, look at what it is, and if you can, address what I call the root cause of that, so that once we get out of this, that problem doesn't need to keep recurring in your life.
Yeah.
I like that.
Can I just, because there's two really interesting questions that came up, and I agree with a lot of what this wine show you've got me on. A lot of what, yeah.
I'm drinking Jamun wine, Caribbean wine, okay?
Oh, lovely. So speaking about, you know, mental health and also what we've learned, I think the two of those go hand in hand. So just to give you a bit of an idea of where I was before this, a lot has been going on in terms of business wise. You know, I had 2 self-employed jobs. I'll be running to this school, running to that school, doing a workshop all over London, doing a workshop over there, coming here, then taking on consultations. And I love what I do. I love working with women, helping them to publish their books. But I just felt like I was never catching up with myself, so I was just spread so thinly. And I think that affected my mental health. I think my mental health has improved since the lockdown. I just remember about 2 months ago, or definitely for the last 6 months, I remember just seeing people say, "You're doing so well, you know, I see you doing this on Facebook," and I'm hearing people tell me how I feel and you know, measuring me by the success that I see externally. Now, just because this person's at this book launch, or they're doing this or they're doing that, it doesn't mean that equates to inner happiness and peace. Do you know what I mean? I just want, and I remember saying to somebody, you know, I'm so grateful for everything that's going on. I'm so grateful for the fact, you know, I've got a roof over my head, you know, I've got great jobs, I get to work with young people, I do what I love, I get to help people to publish their books, there's always something going on. I love that, and I'm grateful for it. But I just need everything to stop for 2 months. It's not my fault. I never would have wanted it like this, but I just remember saying I just need 2 months to I don't know who, not I don't know who I am anymore, but I need to just to spend time with myself and catch up with me. And that means doing nothing, because sometimes doing nothing is something. It's the best thing we can do. So just being able to have this time to say, do you know what, Dan, you've been working for 3 hours now on your laptop, you're getting a migraine, close your laptop, go into bed and read a book. I would have never have done that, because I'm thinking, I've got to keep going, because tomorrow morning I've got to be here and I've got a deadline there. Whereas this, I just feel like I've been able to reclaim those parts of myself and take back a little bit more control. And I think that, if anything, like Marilyn says, it's just having that introspection and having that time to really just catch up with ourselves, you know. There's always going to be times, I've had down days, I've had days where, you know, I'm hearing my neighbours in their couples, and I'm hearing families, and I hear music outside, it's like, darn them, you know. But it's just it's accepting that and being comfortable with that. And I actually wrote out something, so it's, what have I done to nourish my soul today? What have I done to nourish my mind? What have I done to nourish my body? What have I read today? Who have I connected with today? And all of those things, reflecting. I mean, I've stopped doing it now, but I did it for the first week, and I was able to look at it at the end of the day and say, oh, you know, I value those friendships more. I never had time to pick up the phone and have conversations. It was quick, you know, voice notes. And now we've got more time to connect more, and it's just appreciating those little things, I think.
Thank you, Danny. There's a question here. I'm taking questions as we go along. One of them says, Sherry, don't you think this is an opportunity for people to be introspective? Oh my God, it's moved. Why has it moved? Yeah, introspective about their life in every area, and come away from this period with a new look about themselves, also a new plan. And that was from Apostle Maggie Griffith. And then there's another question. I'm just going to read it out. Not a question, sometimes it's a statement. Jeanette says, now is a good time to mentor any woman. Any woman. Well, I would even extend it to mentor any person with practical advice. It's more than mental issues, it's holistic. And then the last question, well, Jeanette also says, ask them to write down how they feel. And I think she's talking about to the audience. Write down how you feel. Write down how you think you can fix the situation for the future. Because we're all talking about today, where we're in that lockdown. But when we get out of here, we should have a plan, should we not? Keysha?
I don't know. I remember when this first started, and I saw a few like posts on social media that, you know, such and such wrote a best-selling book, you know, when they were in a pandemic, how many hundreds of years ago. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to be writing any best-selling book. I am taking this time out to center myself and I think someone mentioned earlier, nourish my soul, and whether that meant listening to music, watching Netflix, talking to my friends or family members. I was going to do whatever it took to get through. I was taking things day by day, rather than thinking about, because I can't even imagine what next year looks like. This is so new to us that I for the first time, I feel we're kind of forced to live in the present rather than, right, next month I'm going to be traveling to this country or doing et cetera, et cetera. So I can't say I'm going to come out of this with a plan. I feel that I've grown spiritually. I feel myself, my family have become closer, and my friends. And those are the things that kind of matter, rather than having some grand scheme about what I'm going to do career-wise or professionally in the next year or so. So, yes.
Maybe because, maybe
I think that's a personal thing as well.
Maybe, Keysha, because you're already in the moment, you were in the moment of change. So that might be all right for people like you or I that are, and the others on the panel who have already made our change. I think for the people that are got caught in this drama, They really do need to make a plan. Maybe give up the job that was hurting your, like we did, the job that was sort of killing us off, really.
Yeah, I think what I'm trying to say is don't be too hard on yourself. We have to forget that we're living through trauma at the moment. We've talked about ourselves, and our situation seems quite privileged. We're all healthy, but people have lost loved ones. There are people that are out there on the front lines trying to save lives. And this is all trauma. So if you haven't got like a 6-point plan on what you're going to be doing in the next year's time, that's absolutely fine. Don't be so hard on yourself. So if you feel like, yes, I am strong enough, or I have got my mental faculties in place to think of what I want to do next, that's absolutely fine. But if you haven't, that's fine too. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not.
Yes, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Before I open up the floor, we've got 15 minutes, 15 minutes. Linda Dazi Black says, ladies, a Caribbean happy Mother's Day to you all. Living in Europe or North America, I think the reliance on telecommunications to contact family and friends are normal. We do this in the Caribbean, but I think that we are in physical contact more, meaning that we go visit our family more than you lot in London, yeah, in America. But I think we do this in the Caribbean, but I think we are in more physical contact. How would you recommend we cope with this new method of contacting family and friends in this new normal? Because think about it, ladies. We're used to taking Mother's Day. We would have taken food from mommy and granny and Auntie Betty, but now they can't do it. And I think that would be even harder for people from Africa and the Caribbean, where we're used to not being so isolated. I think the British and American people will tell you, well, call me before you come. Here, it's normal for people to drop by. It's normal to give a hug. I'll give you an example. The lady upstairs, she came out of the taxi and I could see her trying to shake the man's hand. No, don't shake the man's hand, not for now anyway. So how do we teach the older people the new norm? I'm going to open the floor. I want people in the audience. We've got 10 minutes. And come on, just join us. Be part of the moment. And if you don't, I'll call you out. And I can see some people going off. Okay, Miss Nero, what do you think? And I can see you.
She's on mute.
On mute.
Sorry, I was typing a question.
Okay.
I think with the older generation, again, because they're stuck in their ways to what they normally do. They're genuinely touchy-feely people, and that's how they communicate. So to get them to adjust to that, it is going to take a long road. But it is and again, remember, for a lot of them, they live on their own. So it's a lonely thing.
It's very lonely.
Yeah.
Very lonely for older people. I know that because I mentor a lot of people, and this is the biggest area and the biggest problem is older people. I'm worried about them more so than I'm even worried about younger people, because not all of them could use these gadgets, So I'm a bit worried about that. Karen says we can all mentor and support each other. I actually agree. There's more times for mentoring now. Really, truly, ladies, each one of us could be a mentor. I know we do, and you do books, but you can mentor somebody else who might feel the way you do. Like, they're questioning themselves. Should I feel okay about staying in? Is this normal? Because I know I question myself quite a lot. Like, am I so comfortable like this? Am I sort of really getting old now? Is this how old people behave? Like, don't come visit me. I'm fine by myself. But another person, Deborah said, I'm finding my current career in the retail sector, and this is this I fear will drastically change. So I'm finding myself seeking other courses to enhance myself holistically and mentally. What is your thoughts? Who wants to take that one? I can answer it all, you know. Davina, it's your turn.
What can you do to enhance yourself holistically and mentally? It's so individual, isn't it? I think you have to try and find your passion. I think this is a time where we've all acknowledged that I think we all thought that we wouldn't know what to do with ourselves, but we all come to value time, and that's something that I've kind of came to value a lot. Some time ago, I kind of started to place more value on my time than how much money I could earn and so on and so forth. And I think now, having even extra time, it is the time to think about the kind of things that you want to do. It's the time to think about how you can enhance yourself. Can you make these changes? And it is possible. I'm somebody who I've suffered with anxiety. So I always, when people said, "Oh, you've moved to Canada, how very brave," and I always think, brave, that's definitely not a word I would have ever associated with myself. But I guess, the point is, if I can do it, and I've always been so fearful of even the little things, I think it's, it's living proof that we can do things. I never imagined that I would have left, good old London to move across the waters. But I think the important thing is to find what you love. I'm fortunate. I always knew I loved writing in some capacity. So when I left journalism, I kind of made the transition to writing in another form. And I think that there really is, it all sounds so cliche, but there's just so much joy that can be found from doing something that you love. If you can find something that you love, that's the beginning of the journey to finding happiness and true contentment, rather than being in the rat race and being in was it retail, or being in any kind of field that doesn't make you happy, because it's just draining. It's really not worth it. So I think find your passion, find your calling, and work towards it. Find the courses that you feel speak to you, or it might be a new field, a new profession, something that speaks to you. And there's again, now is a time, it's an opportune time to try and find something that speaks to you, something that calls you, and something that will fulfill you more in the long term.
Yes, and one of the things I thought of was that okay, this is sort of my idea of my webinars, just bringing people who can give back to others. But you could do that even within your family. Just have family friends. I think there's time for the Bolos family reunion. Emmanuel, thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. We have boys in here, and Kwame. Thank you for joining us. I can't see all of you, but it's nice to understand that men can be part of this. So Emmanuel, don't you think it's time for a family reunion? Bolos is my maiden name, just in case you didn't know. Everybody knows it is. But what do you do? What's your new norm?
Well, as far as the family reunion goes, it is way overdue. I mean, ever since I was little, I've gone to my mother's family reunion. I'm like, Dad, didn't you ever have one? And then when I went to Grandpa Henry's house one day, I saw a Bo's family reunion T-shirt, but it was back in the 80s, like before I was born. I was like, if it's been that long, it's way overdue. So by us connecting on Facebook and Instagram, stuff like that, I mean, it's another step closer, but it needs to be pushed a little bit further in order to like organize something, because there's a lot of us that we still don't know are out there. So yes. I'd say we got to keep all rolling.
Yeah, that's a good thing. It's learning about each other. Gloria says, I speak to my 82-year-old aunt via WhatsApp in the Caribbean. Whoop, whoop, great for your auntie. Hello, 82. And Beverly says, mentoring my daughter, such a great opportunity, loving every moment of it. I wouldn't have had the time before that. This morning we were planning together. I was able to give her some tips on planting. Wow. And Karen, who I know is Galaxy S6. It's time for an upgrade. What about the upcoming younger generation? who needs to value the new changes upon them. Time for new learning, time for new creativity and making a difference. And what strategies can we as adults set examples of? Where would it benefit rather than be a pressure? So what strategies can we as adults really, to give to the other person? I know some people have got better relationship with their children. What do you think about that? Who should I pick on now? Keysha.
What was the question? Sorry, how
do you think,
my
because you've
relationship
got
changed?
2 young children, you've got a young boy. So
2 boys.
Two boys. Do you actually think that this is giving you an opportunity to do new things with them, teach them differently?
Yeah, the homeschooling thing, I'm not going to lie, is a bit of a struggle. My son is 15, so I've got a 15-year-old and a 4-year-old, so 2 very different stages of life. I've got a teenager and, you know, an infant. The homeschooling has been a bit of a struggle, but we're getting there, you know. But in turn, as before, he was, I feel, typical teenager thing where he's up in his room a lot, playing his music. Now, we're the only other human beings that he has physical contact with, so he has to interact with us. So that's meant, you know, a lot of time spent with his little brother, playing with him, talking to us, talking more about his feelings as well and how he's feeling. With my younger son, it's never really been a problem. He's very open and jovial and communicates really well and everything. So yeah, I'm hoping that the relationship with my older son will maintain the same after lockdown is lifted, and he'll feel more free to open up with us. So yeah, for me it's been a positive change. Yeah,
I truly really love this session. I really did. Too. It's my first one, and I didn't even realize an hour is nearly gone. You know, I want more time. But,
I know.
You know, we can't do that. They'll just cut us off mid-sentence. So I want to take this time to thank all of you, my girls, my go-to girls, my it girls. I really thank you for joining me. Next week, we are doing beauty. And let me just tell you quickly, we're doing next week is all about beauty, health, and fashion. And you guys would want to be on that one. Make sure you're there. Okay? Huh? Yeah, I know. But I'm gonna have some fashion people just giving some hints. I'm gonna have Leanne. So that's potential joy, potential you. Leanne St. Tobin is gonna talk about beauty, things that you can do for yourself. You know, mixing and blending and all those things. And then we're gonna have Veronica White. I'm sure Keysha and a few of you know her. She started a new web page that's teaching us how to really look after our hair, all the things that we do wrong. So that should be good fun. I'm really grateful for you guys joining me today, and all my friends and mentees who are in the audience. I'm really grateful. It shows you care. And people are coming through and saying they really enjoyed the session, looking forward to next week. So thank you. We've got to go. Otherwise they're going to cut me off and then I'm going to feel bad. But thank you so much. Thank you, girls.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Davina. Bye, Marilyn. Bye, Daniella. Lovely meeting you guys. Bye.
There's Jan Hogan. I can see my friend from Wales. Waving. Jan Hogan has been somebody who I used to go to Wales and she used to accommodate me, and I couldn't believe that I was lecturing in Wales about Black history. I think they were better than the Londoners. Thank you so much, Jan.
Sorry I was a little bit late, but you sound amazing. I'll be on time next week.
You're welcome.
I was cooking Sunday dinner and I suddenly thought, no, I've forgotten, so I'm sorry. It's only about I think it's about 6 o'clock here.
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, but that's good. Thank you very much. And thank you so much, Jeanette, for being a support. Always a support. All these clothes that I keep modeling on Facebook. Hello. That's Jeanette Stewart, who is Guyanese. And of course, Danzy, who is like my go-to business mentor in Guyana. Thank you so much. And Emmanuel and Kwame, thank you very much. See you next week.